It's the Exit 52 podcast, presented as always by Jimmy's Famous Seafood. My name is Jake Louque, and I'm joined not by RDT, who is probably on a leg somewhere. No, he is busy tonight, taking care of some family stuff. So I'm joined by my guy Zach Bollinger of the Ryan Ripken Show, here to break down another series that was played by the Baltimore Orioles in 2025, and as has been the case for the other ones that we have covered, it is not, was not a fun one. But, otherwise how are we doing tonight, pal?
I was going to say, that was a good way to put it. We are covering baseball was played. From what I've heard, baseball was played, but it was, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it and be like feeling great. I felt great after game one.
Yeah.
I felt great after game one. I put the "Are we back?" tweet out, and it's like the narrator, like Morgan Freeman, like they were in fact not back.
My friend, old Andy Dufresne, was not in fact back. Yeah, no, that's funny. So I told you, like, we got our run sheet here, and my first and second inning that I wrote down, specific to game one. Game one, it gets off on the right foot. That feels like another common theme that we're talking about here with these series. And offensively, I think it wasn't perfect. In that game, you're looking at a final score of 5-1, but that's pretty much all you're asking for. We'll get into Zach Eflin, but I mean, in inning two that I wrote down here, specific to the offense, it felt like, I wouldn't say they were firing all throughout the series, but you get off on the right tone. Ryan O'Hearn, first inning home run, sets a good tone. Gunnar, 2 hits and a walk. I think it was his first multi-hit game of the year, 2 hits and a walk. Mountie, 2 RBIs, and this is against Zach Allen. We're not talking about a scrub out there. And they obviously get kind of bamboozled by Merrill Kelly in game 2, and then obviously whatever the hell we saw with today with game 3. But game 1, again, like I don't really know like how to how do you even like define this as a trend that like game 1 they go out there, they look competent, and then games 2 and 3 or 4 in the case of Toronto, which obviously that was a little bit of a different series, but it just, I don't know, it's just like an unevenness with this team, which is not even reflected in the record, which they are now 3 games below 500. It just, there's no rhythm. There's no good tenor to what I'm seeing. It just, none of it feels good right now.
Yeah. The key word that we say, drink every time we say it over on Kevin and Zach React is consistency, because that's what has lacked for, unfortunately, not even just this season or this series. It's been since last July. It's been inconsistencies, and this offense, like you said, they go back out there in game 1. You're looking for a get-right game heading into this stretch of Arizona and then Toronto. If you just take 2 of 3 from each of them, you're back to 500. You're feeling better at 8-8 heading into the the home, not the home stretch, but your biggest homestand of the season. So you would be feeling a lot better about that. You start out with the 5-1 game. You did feel like, the offense wasn't firing on all cylinders, but after the leadoff homer, you kind of felt like the offense was doing their thing. They were manufacturing runs. They were getting runs in without hits through sac flies. And it felt like, all in all, you're like, okay, this is the offense at their best when they are hitting the long ball, but they're also finding ways to get on base.
5 RBIs across 4 guys: Adley, O'Hearn, Cedric, and Mountcastle with 2. I mean, that's pretty much all you're looking for. And like we talked about it on our show, and I'm sure you guys did also, all winter, basically. It's like you look back and where I'm starting to get kind of some war flashbacks of what we saw in the second half of last season. All I really wanted was just competent, like kind of basic move the runner along the base paths baseball, get guys in scoring position and convert. And it feels like leaving guys stranded, this, that, and the other. We'll get into that with the other 2 games. But in this first one, we saw a little bit of that. And I think that's what makes it so frustrating to see results like today and the day before.
Yeah. And man, I feel like I've a broken record at this point. But what's the most frustrating part is it would be one thing if every single game the Orioles kind of did this disappointing thing where you're like, okay, they're just not scoring runs. They're just not. Offense is just a crap show, whatever you want to call it. But every other game besides, obviously, the past 2, every other game, they show you exactly what you hoped for from this team and from this offense specifically. Like we talked about the 5-run first game. We've seen them put up 9, 12, 8 runs at a time and look like an unbeatable force. It feels like you sit there and you watch this team, and that's what's most frustrating. Is it wasn't frustrating when they weren't scoring in 2021. You were like, that's who they are. They're just not a good team.
No
That's who they
expectations. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Now you've seen it. We've seen Gunnar be an MVP type player. We've seen Adley sneak his way into the top 5 of MVP voting. You've seen these guys carry offenses. Jordan Westberg, Ryan Mountcastle, when he's hot, can carry an offense by himself. You've seen it at work, and that's what makes it more frustrating. Is you're like, this is a good team that is playing bad baseball,
and it makes. I mean, it really does make you wonder. After the offseason that was controversial. And I mean, I guess we can get into it a little bit now with Corbin Burns' comments about quote unquote a head scratching offer that the Orioles made to him, which I found a little cute. I know you guys had him on the show. I think you could probably speak to it better than I could, but it was a 4-year offer. I think it was at 145 overall.
180 actually. So 180. So 45 million per.
Right, 45 AAV, which would be the highest contract for a pitcher of all time. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. And his concern was the length of it. Right, talking Curb Your Enthusiasm. I really like the length of the movie. He wanted the 6-year deal, and then I guess that coupled with the fact that it was going to be tough to get. He acknowledged it would be tough to get me to sign anywhere but a West Coast spot. I get it, but after that happens in the offseason where he leaves, and then you're. Big additions are Charlie Morton, not looking great, as we saw in this series and have seen thus far. Tomo Sugano's been good, but that's kind of a wild card. And O'Neill has been, I think, very solid. You'd probably want to start seeing a little bit more power from him some point soon, but just an inactive, underwhelming offseason. And then couple that with the fact that I think you were banking on them looking much more like the, quote unquote, young core that we've seen rather than what we saw in the second half of last year. All that coupled with the fact that the results are just not there with this offense in particular, and you've got an injured pitching staff and you're 5-8. It's just all swirling in a really bad direction right now.
Yeah. And, to start with the Corbin Burns thing, we actually talked to him for about 10 minutes earlier today. And going into it, I obviously have just heard things from people of, he won it there because of, close to home. Then there was the Orioles didn't make a competitive offer, all that. We talked to him for 10 minutes. I'd say 5.5, 6 of it was him talking about just genuinely how excited he is that his kids get to sleep in their own bed. He gets to be home. He's like, my kids don't have to worry about moving. He's like, we are home. We are where we are supposed to be. He even told us, he said it's not, he put it, other teams didn't go on the back burner, but once Arizona entered the chat, that's where he said he knew all along. Even through last season, he and Boris, if Arizona gave a competitive offer, he said it was going to be hard to turn that down because it is home. So it's disappointing there, but let's look at the other side of it. Like you just talked about, they then go out, they get Morton and Sagano. Not really, and I guess Kyle Gibson now, but even if you combine all their wars from last year, they aren't Corbin Burns. So it did feel like a big grade there. But the most important thing, and I think we're now seeing that, is when we talk about Sagano, I was so excited about Sagano because he is that wild card. You don't know what you're going to get. He could be the ace in the hole. All of a sudden, you got this guy that comes out and can be this, hey, he is really all that he was, one of the greatest all time in Japan.
And it's not conventional with him being 35, but I mean, that's a big international signing, which,
it's a massive international signing. And I think people kind of downplayed it because of Sasaki coming over. It was like the second guy. But now the issue with Sagano is I love Sagano as that wild card. I was not thinking by his third start, we were going to have Sagano be the number one pitcher. And that's not where you want it to be.
Exactly. And that leads us right into the third inning with Zach Eflin. Looked great in that first game, right? Goes six innings, just a very clean 6 innings, but then he leaves kind of in the moment, people on Twitter freaking out. I think somewhat understandably, maybe let's tone it back a little bit, guys. He threw 72 pitches, I think was the number, and he leaves the game, and it winds up shoulder discomfort. After a 4-hit game, 1 earned run, he's basically kind of the driving force of that win. Shoulder discomfort, gets an MRI, comes out today. 15-day IL, retroactive to yesterday, so 14 days with lat strain.
Tough. And Yeah, we just had actually on the show earlier today, we had Dr. Yoni Rosenblatt on from True Sports. He said that best case, optimistic, we see him back in Baltimore in 3 to 4 weeks. Just, when you take everything into consideration, that's probably where we're sitting with him. So it's going to be it's that awful side of baseball where we spent all offseason talking about how excited we were for Zach Eflin, how excited we were for Grayson Rodriguez. Both of them now you got to continue on April 9th without them for the foreseeable future. So it puts pressure on guys like now Cade Povich. It went from, hey, great spring. We love what you're doing. You can be the number 5, do your thing. To now it's, hey, Cage, you're the number 2. You're the number 3. You need to go win games. Same with Brandon Young. Kyle Gibson's not ready. Brandon Young probably has to come up and get his shot earlier than expected. And it's a massive blow when you lose Eflin because we talk about consistency. You could argue he's been the most consistent player this season for the Orioles, period. Not starter, not reliever, not just period. If you want a guy who's going out there, giving them a chance to win, consistently going 6, putting them in the position to win the ballgame, it's been Zach Eflin and then friends with the rest of the rotation.
Yeah, it's not looking great. And I think who's our boy Wolfram that they just traded for? Selby, obviously he gets the call up. He appears in the game today in kind of mop up duty, not really getting much action. So yeah, they're kind of lost at sea right now with this pitching staff. And I mean, that can kind of take us into the 4th inning here. And we can dive a little bit deeper into Charlie Morton and sort of like I wrote down for my note here, like game 2, that was the full 2025 Charlie Morton experience. Greasy ass first inning, he's just like the ball is all over the place. He's like hitting Gary Sanchez on the shoulder. Like he can't find the strike zone. I think he gives up, but he only gives up, I think it was 1 run in that inning.
1 run. They found a way out of it.
Right. And like he settles in, he's like kind of in cruise control. It's still kind of greasy, but like he manages to go 5 innings. And then in one of his last pitches, or maybe it was his last pitch, just hangs an absolute, just, you set him up, I knock him back there to nailer. Yeah. And it's just like the final line, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 5 walks, 4 strikeouts. I mean, this is like watching Jordan Spieth play golf. Like it's not always like, it's not as bad as it looks or as it feels with him a lot of the time, but like when he just gets into that high leverage situation and he just hangs one in there and essentially just loses the game for them on that 1 pitch. That's probably oversimplifying it, but that's how it felt. It's just really disappointing that they go on to lose that game 4-3. And then you get the double whammy with Eflin going on the IL. And like you said, probably going to be out for a month here, optimistically. Yeah. Suarez is not an option for them right now. Grayson, who the hell knows? Gibson, he's getting a start with Norfolk tomorrow, I think, or maybe today. And then like we saw a comment here. I mean, if you're counting on Kyle Gibson to come into the mix and save you in the year of our Lord 2025, and we love Gibby. Like I love the guy, but like that is not a fair position to put him into.
Yeah, it's like I've said before, I love the Kyle Gibson signing as a veteran leader, as that presence, because everyone you talk to says nothing but incredible things about Kyle Gibson. Was not hoping Kyle Gibson would have to be brought in to save the rotation. Like that was not, and I'm sure Kyle Gibson will tell you, even, behind closed doors, that probably having him have to come in to be the savior of the rotation is not the best spot to be in right now. But even let's talk about, the entire Charlie Morton experience yesterday. We got that in the Naylor at bat. The first pitch was, he knew Naylor was looking fastball, hits him with the curveball. Naylor just swings over it, just non-competitive pitch. Next pitch goes curveball again, drops in the strike zone. You're like, awesome. Then you're like, okay, Charlie, you got him. Like you 1 pitch, you're out of this. It's still 2-2, and you got an opportunity. Throws a curveball again down in the dirt. Naylor takes it, whatever. I like it. And then you're like, awesome. You've thrown 3 straight curveballs. You located the first 3. This is good. Like, this is good. What you can't then do is then throw a curveball over the middle of the plate for a 4th straight pitch. Naylor is way too good, and he is absolutely on fire. I'm glad the Orioles won't have to see him again unless they meet the Diamondbacks in the World Series. And Naylor hits a double, and like you said, then it was like, well, okay. I mean, we had no clue what was coming later with all the umpiring stuff, but that's besides the point. It felt like at that point, and the biggest issue I have with the Orioles this year is when they fall behind 4-2. 2 years ago, I'm like, that's all you got? 2 runs on us? We're winning. Now they go down by two, and I'm like, oh, okay, tomorrow. We got them tomorrow.
Yeah. And that's kind of fifth inning here. It kind of like, that's what it felt like in that moment was like, okay, offense, like, go show me something. Like, this is your opportunity right now. Like, you guys have had inconsistent series at best. Like, you have maybe one good game, and then the other two, you're quiet. And I was talking about it with Eric on the last recap. When they go quiet in games, they're just quiet. Like, it's not like they're silent, really. It's not quiet.
It's the issue.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like they have these games where they go out there. You mentioned the game one of the season where they score 12, and then they have other ones where they're, putting up 5 like we talked about in game one of the series. But this was a game where you have 3 on the board and it just kind of shuts down, and you sort of lose that high leverage opportunity. You let it, kind of slip through your fingers. It's a chance missed. And we can talk about the weirdness with, I think that was the 7th inning with all the kind of shit going on. And I don't know, basically I just wrote down, it's a crucial 2 RBIs from Cedric, but it's just that bizarre 7th inning sequence where they put a ball into the air. I forget who hit. Was it?
It was a Holliday. Holliday.
Yeah, Holliday pops one out there to Lourdes Gurriel. Awesome catch that he makes.
Yeah.
Somehow O'Neill kind of misses it in the chaos, and you can't totally blame him because there's sort of an umpiring.
The umpire never rules anything. If the umpire doesn't say that it's caught, it's not caught. The umpire's got to give the out. That is his call. It's just a horrible play all around. I mean, one, I think something that's forgot is also Gary Sanchez did not tag at all. So even if O'Neill gets back, Gary's done.
Yeah.
And then you get the added chaos with Gurriel, incredible catch. I don't know where he was throwing. He was throwing to the general vicinity of home plate, but I think he hit the upper top of the net.
That was like, they said he got hurt, so I'm wondering if that affected it. That was one of the most chaotic throws that I've ever seen on a baseball field. I thought they might score all 3 in that moment, not knowing that he caught it, and then it's like, no.
And I think that was part of the reason O'Neill doesn't go back to score, because everyone's standing there like, wait, was that caught? Was that not? You're standing there. And then L'Oreal is just like, or Gurriel, he's just, home plate's that way. That was all he knew, was home plate was somewhere that way, and he just got up and chucked it. That was just one of the weirdest plays I've ever seen, genuinely.
Just very bizarre. I mean, they do get the 1 run in there, and I think that's where you get to 4-3. Then later in the game, you actually have another chance where you get Mountie at bat, Mateo pinch running, steals second, steals third, and then Mountie puts one up in the air, and he's going on Mateo's essentially going on the contact run, like the contact call, essentially. If you see any the ball coming forward at all, you run. He runs, the ball goes right back to I think it was Puck in the game by that point.
Yeah.
Mountie's out because it's popped right to him, and then Mateo is just caught in a pickle, and that's that. And that was kind of the end of it. And it's just like, again, it's reminding me of the second half of last season. High leverage, runners in scoring position,
didn't even need a hit,
needing to manufacture something. You can't get a hit. And I don't necessarily just blame Ryan in that spot. I don't blame Jorge for going on the contact call, but it speaks to some kind of, it's tough to admit, but it feels like there are systemic issues right now that they really need to try to, I mean, it's imperative that they figure this out to some extent and try to get their way to 500 in an AL East that is not looking great right now.
No.
You've got to find a way to grind out some of these games while you wait for Grayson to come back, and you hope that Bradish can make an appearance in 25, and Kittredge and all these guys. There are reinforcements coming, but it's going to be a while. And especially now with Eflin going down for a little bit, they've got to dig deep and find some grit very soon. And what we saw in that game too, it was not an encouraging sign either.
No, it's just the past 2 games have been anything but encouraging. You get Mateo, obviously. We just talked about the situation. He steals second, steals third, and it was kind of feeling like 23 again. It was like, oh, these guys, Adley single, we bring in speed, and we are going to grind this game back to even. We're just going to find a way. And you kind of felt that little okay, if they do come back and win this game, it kind of started feeling okay, the mojo is back. You had the big win yesterday. You have a comeback game today where you fall behind 4-2 in the fifth. Usually this year that means you're dead and out. Come back, if you win that, you feel a lot better. And hell, even if you lose 9-0 today, you're feeling better about winning the series 2-1. Instead, that goes obviously Jorge thrown out at home. Then you got Mounties at second. Westberg can't get him in with 2 outs. And it was deflating. It once again feels like you were saying, it was just like, okay, it's this again. It's not anything new. I keep saying that after every post-game loss, it feels like it would be one thing if the Orioles, we hadn't seen this before, then it'd be like, okay, it's early. You're still trying to figure some things out, knock the rust off. It's the exact same thing we've seen since last July, where it feels like if the Orioles go down, they're not really necessarily coming back with a fight. If whatever happens, it feels like they get behind the 8 ball. Once they get punched in the mouth, they're not necessarily fighting back. It's more of a, we'll get them tomorrow.
Yeah, and you don't want to go to the thought of maybe they're not as talented as we think they are, and there's empirical evidence to suggest they are more talented than they're playing. But I keep coming back to that word systemic. Like, is there a culture thing? Is there a mental block with these guys where you get in a high leverage spot, and we've seen it in the playoffs 2 years in a row the last couple of years. You shrink in these moments, and it's tough. One bright spot from the series, from that game specifically in the 6th inning here, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but our guy Little Jackie. A defense there. I mean, he was some web gems. He had that catch and tag out at first. That's an encouraging sign for this entire year with him both at the plate and in the field.
Yeah, and I mean, what a 180 from his first times up last season, where it felt like it was routine pop-ups to Jackson Holliday, and you're almost like, Gunner, go get it. Gunner, run over there and grab it. Go grab it. And now, if it's anywhere in his vicinity, he's grabbing it. He's snatching it, showing off, flashing the leather. Not only the pickoff play sneaking behind, but then he had the double play, line drive, knows to go right to second. He's made some incredible plays already this year. And Jackson Holliday, I mean, he's a guy that at the plate and in the field, you can tell he is getting more comfortable. And I think that is a big step for him. It's the comfortability. It's knowing he can belong. It's understanding that he belongs here, that he is good to, kind of take those next steps. And I think it's a big step seeing him comfortable in the field, because if he's struggling in the field, that impacts you at the plate. So if he can just get his confidence in the field and know, okay, I'm going to be good no matter what out here, I don't have to worry about that. Last year, he's striking out. He can't catch up with the fastball. Every ball that's hit to him, it feels like he's, kicking, stuff like that. And your mind goes into a whirlwind. Get the confidence going in the field this year. Continue to build confidence in offense. And I think it's going to be a big year for little Jackie.
Yeah, I think so too. The stuff in the field is really great to see. I mean, and from the plate too. I mean, he's got the nice lag in his swing. He's, he's hitting balls hard. He's, still hitting to that opposite field. You could tell that's kind of his approach right now. So that is really good to see from him. So that's one positive note that we can look at in the series. Moving on to the 7th inning and, game 3.
Yeah.
I had it on in the background while I was working today, and kind of, it's Masters week. I'm excited about that. I kind of got other, Master stuff on that I'm listening to. The game is on. It just kind of very much in the peripheral, but man, you talk about pitching, and you got Zach Eflin, who is very much in his physical prime. And then Cade's a young guy. You got a bunch of old guys. Dean is a guy who is very much also supposed to be in his physical prime, and we've seen a lot better from him, but we've also seen plenty of starts like this from him before too, where he goes out there today, granted against a good lineup. He can make it through 4.2, 8 hits, 6 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, 3 home runs. And it just feels like hopefully this is the absolute nadir for this pitching staff right now. But if it's not, you're in for a world of hurt while you wait for some of these guys to get back and healthy.
Yeah, and for Dean, it sucks that it ended 9-0, because going into the 5th, 2 outs in the 5th inning, it was sitting there still at 2-0. And then all of a sudden you get the back-to-back homers, and it really just escalates from there. But it felt like, once again, Dean was just always guys on base. And it's been the story for every pitcher. It seems like, especially starters this year, even when they're getting out of things. Morton, we're saying, oh, we only got out with 1 run yesterday in the first. Oh, today, Kramer escapes with only giving up 1 run. Well, we're saying only because realistically, probably could have put up in each game past 2. Diamondbacks could have put up 3-4 runs each in the first inning, and we're threatening to. So pitching's got to settle in. I I hate this notion that the Orioles are kind of, or I guess trend that the Orioles pitchers are having, where it's like they start out very badly in the game, and then you're like, oh, they settled in. I'm tired of having to say, well, he settled in after a first. Like, let's stop putting this team down 2-0 in the first, because they've proven right now with the offense they're either putting up 9 or 0. So we're going to find out pretty quickly.
It's the type of stuff that you are okay with, and you almost expect with your fourth and fifth guy out there if you're a team like this where you don't have heavy investments. And like that's hopefully how it's going to be in the second half of the year when some of these guys do come back and your rotation is a little more stocked. But like we keep coming back to, it's Dean, it's Charlie Morton, it's Major Tomo, and it's Cade here for another month probably, and you'll get Gibson in the mix, and hopefully Eflin can come back and look like the Eflin we know him to be. But you're going to have to rely on these guys for a while. And it was good to hear, I think, some of the notes, like leadership wise, from Morton. I think had a nice kind of story about how he had taken Cade under his wing a little bit. I think it would be nice for him, and like maybe he wouldn't want to do it because he's new and his play isn't really reflecting it right now. But if he could sit these guys down and just have a come to Jesus meeting and be like, yo, like I've been in, MLB for 20 plus years. I've been through this. Like, you guys got all the talent. Like, let's just figure out a way to settle things down. You want that from Hyde too, obviously. Like, those conversations are happening, but like, it's going to have to not only happen, but then it's going to have to bear fruit, which is really the hard part of all of this.
Yeah, and I think if it's not Morton, I think genuinely the guy it's going to be is Gibson, and he's been that before. I've talked to players that were on the 23 team, and they were like, "Oh, Kyle Gibson was the reason we played the way we did. He was the leader of that team. He was the one where they were." When they needed to decide what they were doing for celebrations, he was the one that Hyde and Elias brought into the room. Like, hey, how do we celebrate, clinching the playoffs? What do we do? He was that leader. People, there's stories of, Tyler Wells talking about when he was sent down. He was like, I was not happy with how things were going. Kyle Gibson called him weekly to check in, to make sure like, hey, what can I help you with? Where's your mind at right now? Like, Kyle Gibson was the leader of the 23 team, which is something that I'm excited to see when he gets back, because I do think if there's someone who's going to sit the pitching down at least and be like, okay, what we're doing isn't working, we got to figure something out, it would be him. And I don't know if it's going to be the stern sit down, hey, we got to, throw things type thing, but he's got a way about him where they just gravitate to what he says. And I'm really hoping, I've said it before that, Morton and Gibson, they weren't necessarily on-field ads. You were hoping to get more off the field. So that's why you love hearing that Morton's taking Povich under his wing. Gibson's going to come back and I think help even more with those guys. But you do want to see that leadership to also show its head. Like, it's been fun to be like, oh, I'm sure they're working with guys behind the scenes. They're being the veteran leaders. I'd like to see that come to fruition on the field and stuff like that more.
Yeah, it's servant leadership, which you can only really like have that at when you're of a certain age. Like Gunnar leads by example. Gunner's 23 years old. Like, he doesn't have the life experience to like say, hey, this is what you got. Like, he certainly, he's been in the league for a couple of years now, but it's just totally different coming from an older guy versus a younger guy like that. So I think Gibson, if nothing else, I think he will be able to bring a lot of that and hopefully bring some much needed stability here. You got a hard out here. So I'll kind of combine 8th and 9th inning here.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just 8th inning, you're 5-8 through your first 13. Your pitching staff is injured, poorly stocked. Offense, inconsistent at best. That's looking like a concern. How close are we? Hand, button. You know what's written on the button.
Yeah. We are close to considering. It's like the South Park thing. We are close to getting to the part of considering hitting the panic button. I'm almost to the point where I'm like, maybe this isn't going too well. I'm still chalking up to early season stuff. Injuries throughout. I would like to see if they ever get fully healthy, what they kind of do then. The biggest thing that if we're going to get close to the panic button, bullpen's fine. I think offense, they need to get consistent, but I've seen the talent there. The one thing that I'm very close on the panic button is the starting rotation. It's because of health. You went into this season, Sagano was a wild card. Okay, he can be your number 3, but he has the upside to be a 2-1 if he pitches the way he can. What Grayson, he can take that next step to be a high-end 2, low-end 1. Eflin in the same kind of thing. He's a bona fide number 2. And then you had the Kapoviches. You had obviously Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells coming back eventually in your back pocket that you're like, that could be massive additions eventually. But now it feels like we're relying on those guys to come back and save the rotation. And it went from, hey, it's a luxury that we have Kyle Gibson, that we have Kyle Bradish and all them coming back eventually, to help out this squad. And now we're relying on it. And that's not a good place to be. You can't be relying on these guys to come back from injury and be these high-end guys, because now it affects everyone else in the rotation. You now have Sagan, who's got to be looked at as pretty much your number 1. Kramer has to step up. Povich, we were talking about, now goes from the young number 5 where you're like, hey, you work on your things, you just continue to get your feet underneath you, to now it's like, hey, dude, we need you to win games. Brandon Young, it went from, hey, keep doing your thing in the minors, you're going to get your opportunity, to, hey, dude, I know we said work on things in the minors. 2 games in, you got to come be a part of the rotation, assuming he's eventually the move. But it just put everyone in the rotation in an uncomfortable position. And it's kind of unfair, like you said, because now Kyle Gibson, when he comes back, it's no longer, hey, we love you as the veteran leader. It's, hey, we're going to need you to win 17 games again. We're going to need you to go find a way to put wins in the win column.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, you'd hope that he wouldn't even get that many starts this year. I mean, depending on how the rotation comes back and health and all the timelines and everything. But I mean, yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm a little panicky for sure. I mean, I haven't fully hit the button yet, just because baseball seasons, it's easy to forget. It's like the meme. My NFL team loses. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll get him next week. Yep. My baseball team loses. I'm freaking out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that clip or whatever. It's, so I'm trying to keep that within perspective, and trying to keep in perspective that we can only see what we can see. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm seeing some buzz already about a mid-season firing of Hyde and Elias. And like, listen, man, I am kind of at a point where I'm ready to do whatever needs to be done to secure the future of this ball club. But I don't think that a mid-season firing of Brandon Hyde is going to do that. And I certainly don't expect it to happen. I just don't think they're going to. But that's a conversation for another day. Like I said, it's like
it would I don't think people understand how bad it would have to be for them to do that. Like, if they're even hovering around 500, they are not going to do that. This team would have to be close to June, and they'd have to be 10, 15 games below 500, I think, for them to even consider that.
Yeah, and not to say that it couldn't ultimately happen. I mean, there are guys out there, Turpdon mentioning, Glavin, Maddox, Smoltz, like some of these names that, Joe Madden was a guy that I was thinking about, a couple years ago, and they chose to stick with Hyde, and whatever, Hyde needs to go. Sure, like that could very much happen. I don't know if I'm expecting it, so I'm kind of just trying to analyze what is right in front of me. Listen, man, like we keep saying, they've shown they have talent, blah blah blah. There's time to turn it around. It just looks bad right now. It feels bad right now, and if you're frustrated, you are absolutely within your right to vent it after this underwhelming offseason and the results that have borne out of it. So
it's been the word underwhelming can cover pretty much from July 1st last year on to now, just encompassing the Baltimore Orioles. It's been, we just need to get hot at the right time in the playoffs. Doesn't happen. We just got to get Corbin or Santander back. Neither happened. You just got to get an ace. You got to find that frontline guy. Doesn't happen. We're going to rely on the offense. Now these guys are inconsistent. It's been underwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, before we get you out of here, any takes here as we head into this homestand against the Blue Jays? Crucial series that you were hoping wouldn't be a couple weeks ago, but here they
are. Sagano puts on a show tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Friday. I think Tomo is he's somebody that I think is going to be very good for this team. I thought it was going to be more of a plus than a necessity, as I said earlier. Thought it was going to be, hell yeah, we got, Tomoyuki Sagano is pitching well, and, he's really taking the rotation to the next level. Now we need him to be sort of that ace, and I think he's up for the challenge. I really enjoy what I see from him every time he pitches.
Yeah, it's fun to watch, man. I was telling Eric, kind of that slow, sort of deliberate kind of delivery, and he's the ball and kind of I like the demeanor too, sort of real Japanese, real proper kind of guy, like very cool kind of mix in with the guys. And it seems like he's assimilating well with the walking out of the clubhouse with the blue moons in his hand and getting the beer shower and the card. It's fun.
It's fun. I think he's going to be a big addition to this team when it's all said and done.
Absolutely. So that's something to track. Plenty of other things to track. We got to get you out of here because you got another show that you're about to record. How about you tell everyone where they can find you, find that show, find the Ryan Ripken Show, everything you got going on.
Yeah, so Twitter, X, Zach, at Zach Bollinger 18. I'm about to go hop on to Kevin and Zach React. We go live after every single Orioles game, win or lose. So all 162 plus, hopefully plus. So yeah, can catch me over there. I'm about to go hop on and do some more reviewing of this. Also have call-ins over there. Ryan Ripken Show. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Go live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
You guys are, if I may, absolute fucking warriors, because I sometimes I'm like, I sit back and I think if this thing goes south and I've got to do every series, but if you guys are doing every game through all of this, I pray. Not just for my fandom, but I pray for your sanity that this thing does turn around.
Yeah, there are some nights that I text Kevin before we go on, and I'm like, oh, this one's going to be rough. This one's going to be rough.
Yep. Oh, I'll tell you, I had a rough one. All right, buddy. Well, you're the man. Thanks for hopping on very short notice here with me, as I needed somebody to come out of the bullpen, and I think you got the save here. You helped us out big time. So
couldn't have done it without you. Couldn't have done it without you with the setup. Appreciate you. Let me know anytime. Would love to hop on.
Yep, absolutely. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Also, appreciate you, Jake.
All right. Yep. Thank you guys for tuning in to another not so fun series recap as far as content, but fun to chat with Zach and take all the comments. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to us here on YouTube at the X52 Podcast. Like the videos, comment on all, get the algorithm pumping for us. Find us on X and Instagram at X52 Podcast. I am at Jake Louque. That's LOUQUE. Zach at Zach Bollinger 18. Eric at EDITTI 22. Spenny at Ravens 4 Dummies. That is the number 4. Brian at Barstool Banks. Taylor at Taylor Smythe 10. Thanks again, guys, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.